Aloha, namaste. This is Alexis Cox with Radha Home Yoga, and I'm here to bring you your full moon forecast for Wednesday, December 11th. It's going to be 9:12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time that we'll see the moon and the sun exactly across from each other. We have our moon in Sidereal Taurus. At the very end of Taurus, 25 degrees, we're going to see this moon in the star Mrigasira. Mrigasira is it's a star of searching. It's a star of a spiritual quest and sort of the beginning of that quest. And it's part in Taurus and part in Gemini, the star. The part for our full moon is in Taurus. But we see this, these eyes open to the possibilities of the world. Mrigasira means literally like the face of a deer. And the story of this star, if you look at the cosmology of all the nakshatras, all the stars in the Vedic system, it starts with this creation myth, and it's kind of a sordid story from a Western perspective of the creator Prajapati wanting to create the most beautiful beings the earth could possibly have, and his way of thinking of doing that was he wanted to mate with his most beautiful of his daughters, who was Rohini, the star right before Mrigasira. And Rohini is also the favorite of her husband. They say the moon is while it's a feminine body, it is a male god, a male deity, Soma, and Soma has these 27 wives, the nakshatras, and Rohini is the most beautiful one, the one he wants to spend all of his time with, and that's another story. But Prajapati wants to mate with this beautiful young maiden as well, who happens to be his daughter, and she is not interested. And the other deities, the higher deities, if you will, are seeing this take place, and they want to step in and help. So they want to help Rohini. So they take their power, they take all of their strength, all of their ferocity, all of their capacity to sort of break and cut and destroy this plan of Prajapati's, and they put it together and create this creature, this character who is really a form of Shiva, the destroyer. And he's called Rudra, and he's the howler, and he's fierce and he's ferocious, and he shoots down Prajapati from the sky, and he falls to earth. And this is sort of the beginning of our failings here on earth, and our personal follies, our personal problems as humans, but also the destructions and natural disasters and things and diseases and famine and stuff that we have to deal with. And so the maiden, Rohini, what she does is turn herself into a deer. She wants to escape. So this is actually before Rudra shoots down Prajapati. She wants to fly away from her father or go away from her father, so she turns herself into a deer and heads to earth, and he chases her, and that's when the gods step in and bring him down to earth, quite literally. So that's this nakshatra, where she's first like, no, that's not working for me, and I'm going to transform myself into this sort of beautiful being with 4 legs that can run and go down to earth and find what will work for me. And that's kind of how that story progresses. So Mrigasira is a place where we're starting a spiritual search. We're starting a path of some sort. It's actually my rising sign, right where this full moon is, and I know it well. It's beginnings, and it's also a lot of that warrior energy that would even allow you to start such a search to begin with, to even be willing to let go of what you knew and what was safe and what was secure, and make your way out, foray out into the world to find what feels more like truth, what feels more real to you. This moon is directly across from our sun, obviously in Scorpio, and the sun is at the end of Scorpio in Jaistha, where we also need to be warriors, where we also need to be strong and empowered and able to defeat not just the demons, and that nakshatra is actually ruled over by Indra, the king of the gods, who has to battle a lot the demons, but he also has to battle his own ego and his own conflated sense of self, and that's often harder and the bigger demon to battle than the ones around us and the ones outside of us. It's our own inner battle. So that is the axis we're working with on this full moon. And Mercury is joined in early degrees, 9 degrees of Scorpio, that sun. So we see that our sense of communication and our sense of taking in information and then, again, putting it out to others is in the watery emotional realm of Scorpio, where we can be controlling, we can be... that emotional drive of Scorpio also has this sort of controlling quality because of fear, because of the fear that it won't be the way we want it to be. So we use words to seduce and to hold and to even attack, right, as the scorpion would. So we have to be careful with our language and careful with our speech, especially when it has that empowerment of being near the sun. It's not so close to the sun that it's what we would call, well, let's see, it's at 9 degrees, 25 degrees. Ooh, it's right, it's not quite in realm of being combust. So it's not close enough where we feel shut down or afraid to speak, but it's close enough where we might feel some power, we might feel some empowerment from having that sun there and feeling our power in that same arena of the emotional dark underbelly of things, where we're facing our fears and where we're shining light on things and seeing what is and what corners things are hiding in and sort of bringing it out into the light. That's what the sun and Scorpio can really do. And when we have Mercury there also, we're more likely to say it or communicate it and less likely to maybe keep our mouth shut. And this, can have consequences, especially in relationship. And I spoke about this a lot in my previous forecast when we started this new moon cycle, when the moon and sun were both in Scorpio to begin with. But we do have some challenges with relationships right now. We have the planet Mars in Venus's sign of Libra, so that's really the field of relationships. Libra is where we want to harmonize, where we want to compromise, where we want to see everyone win, and where we want things to be beautiful and harmonious. And when Mars is there, there's like that part of us that kind of doesn't want things to be harmonious, that wants to fight a little bit or separate instead of join, argue instead of, build an idea together. There's a real quality of sort of stomping in and breaking things up wherever Mars goes, and especially in a sign that's really trying to keep the peace and keep things nice and beautiful. Mars can disrupt that. And it can also be a situation where we feel we feel sort of angry at others for keeping us from doing what we feel like we need to do. Like the discipline and courage and action that Mars brings to our lives is disrupted in Libra, where we might compromise and then feel angry at the person that we compromised for. Or we might not be as solid at holding our own agenda or our own plan for things to move forward, and then feel negatively towards the other person. Even if we're intelligent enough to process it's not their fault or that we made that choice ourselves, we still might just feel a little bit distant or wanting to cut off whoever we think is keeping us from our discipline and our courage and our daily activities that we need to be doing. And Venus herself is in Jupiter's sign of Sagittarius. And we had earlier, when I was doing that new moon report 2 weeks ago, we had Jupiter and Venus in exact degrees, and they were kind of battling, like, is it, our high principles that matter, or is it our compromising in relationships that matter? And that was right over around Thanksgiving, where, people probably had to deal with some issues over the Thanksgiving dinner because the capacity to compromise was less, and the desire to stand up for your beliefs was stronger. So now what we see is that Venus moves very quickly. Venus and Mercury move almost at the same rate as the sun. So we see Venus is now at the end of Sagittarius where Saturn is, and now Venus and Saturn are in exact degrees. And I spoke about this a little bit, where we were going with that. First it's Jupiter and Venus, then it's going to be Ketu and Venus, the South Node, where we're sort of pulling away from relationship and feeling this other kind of, disgust or distaste with what's going on. And now it's Saturn and Venus, where we kind of want to commit to relationships. There's that feeling of commitment, but it's coming from a place of fear, and it's coming from a place of there's only so much time, and we have to, we have this pressure on us because there's X amount of time and things have to be done in this amount of time. So in terms of love, it can be less romantic and more pressure-based and more commitment that comes from a really cold reality, like a really cold, harsh reality of like, well, I got to commit now, or it's, never going to happen, or there's, only 1 year left in this amount of, there's this sort of practical timekeeping that Saturn brings into the picture that's definitely not romantic. And, both Venus and Saturn being in Sagittarius brings things a lot around our beliefs and our ideals, and making sure that the people we're compromising with, or the people that we're even engaging with in romantic ways, are aligned with those beliefs and aligned with those ideals. And if we are newly being in relationship, of course that's going to be like sort of a precursor or an initial thing that we're dealing with. If we're in a relationship for a long period of time, much of that has probably been worked out over time. You're probably either with somebody who has very similar values to you or similar belief systems to you, or you're not, and you know that. So in those cases, it's more of an issue with, say, your coworker or your partner at work, or friends, or even relatives and, parents. When we become older, our parents take on more of that co-adult situation with us. So you have to pick your battles. When you're in a situation where Venus is compromised, or where Mercury is compromised, where our planets where we get along with others are in harsher situations, or in climates that aren't as compromising, we have to pick our battles, because you're only going to get so far with so and so on the internet. You're only going to get so far with Uncle Joe, who's never agreed with you on anything. You're only going to get so far with your parents. You're only going to get so far in situations like that. And is it worth it? Most people, like in that realm, can either just completely not be in your life, like the person on the internet, or like your parents, they're in your life, and for better or worse, for whether you agree with them or not. So it becomes more important to keep the peace in those situations than it is to be right, without somehow folding completely on your own value systems and just, completely shutting yourself down and not expressing yourself. We have to find more mature ways to express what we believe, but not start a fight, and not put down the other person, and allow space for everybody's opinions and everybody's belief systems, which of course we're not doing on a bigger scale. So these little alignments that we see happen in, they're not little alignments, they're actually quite big, happen in our personal world, in our personal life. They happen within us, like your own battle between your beliefs and your ideals, and wanting to feel good, and wanting to feel happy, and wanting to connect with this person who's in front of you, and wanting this, there's that battle. Then there's the battle with the actual individuals in your world, the people you work around, the people you are in relationship with, your friends, your family, all those people. And then there's like your country or your social setting and the situations that are happening in that arena. And then there's all the world, the whole world, and we could expand that to the universe as well. So these are happening in all the different levels, and that climate of beliefs being so rigid and so strict and so oppressive has been very strong since Saturn's been in Sagittarius. We felt that. Now Jupiter moved into Sagittarius, and we, in November, and we start to feel ourselves expand a little bit and become a little bit more aligned with beliefs that connect to deeper, higher beliefs. So not just trenched into our social beliefs or what we think is right, but really maybe able to expand that and connect it to something higher and a real truth. A real truth is not going to be so specific to this time. A real truth is going to be timeless. So we have that capacity right now with Jupiter and Sagittarius. We have the capacity to really see the light and to really have that truth be what drives us and what is inspiring us and what gives us hope. We have the capacity to, elevate all of this depending on our own evolution, depending on how far along we are on our paths. We can do that, but we can also play the petty battles, play the petty things along the way, or cling to something when we feel scared, or run from something when we feel scared, or break something when we feel scared, or lash out at something when we feel, angry or scared, because anger and fear are really the two things that keep us from feeling expansive and love and generosity of spirit and heart and ideas and an open mind. That fear that something's going to take away our own freedom or our own happiness or our own love is where that comes in. And when we can be expansive about those things, Jupiter and Venus, have a little bit of a love-hate relationship because we feel like our beliefs have to be compromised for our happiness. But the truth is, Venus is actually exalted in Jupiter's sign of Pisces. So when we can lose the rigidity of our beliefs, when we lose the dogma and the part of our beliefs that fit in a specific time and place and that don't expand to always, then we actually can find the most happiness. That's when happiness is real, and it's not based on specific compromises and agreements being made in a moment where it's a give and take. It's based on a letting go of all of that and just trusting that if you put love out into the world, it will come right back to you. Not needing it to come directly from that person you gave it to, and not needing everything to be so transactional. So that's really high love and high spirituality coming together. And it's not only possible, it's probable, it is what is. It's what we're all moving towards in the end. But it's not common to live in that space. It's more common to live in the space of fear or dogma or transactional love. So we just need to be aware of what can be and also what is, and where we are along that line, along that potential. So that's our, kind of what we're dealing with for this particular full moon. We do have coming up in 2 weeks for Christmas Day a major eclipse, and I will be doing a whole new video on that because that's going to be pretty intense for us all. But for now, it's good to just recognize that we are at the beginning of maybe even I would say the middle of kind of an intense period of time. We had a little hiatus, a little break for a while in the fall time, and now it's kind of moving towards the solstice on the 21st and moving towards this eclipse, this solar eclipse on the 25th. And we happen to also have this time of year be a time of family and gathering and social exchange and all these different things that we sort of have to do or are committed to at this time So it's harder to stick to our own practices. It's harder to stick to the things that keep us stable and keep us mentally and emotionally well when we're being faced with challenges, because we have maybe all these random commitments or parties or things going on, and family. You know, of course, our collective biggest trigger is almost always your family. So needing to ground down as much as possible into what your practices are, not your beliefs, not the dogma, not the, you know, the fight that's going to happen, but the practices. And it's one of my favorite things about the Vedic sciences and the Vedic arts, and it is wholly possible to have any belief system and still have practices. But I like the through line and the lineage around this particular one, where you really, you know, there's actual exercises you can do, actual breathing techniques you can do, and actual dietary choices you can make that can help ground you and help balance you and help you feel more okay, even when everything is up in the air and a little bit more crazy. So please, whatever your, you know, your practices are, and I believe that if that's surfing, or if that's swimming, or if that's taekwondo or jujitsu or whatever it is that is brings you to that place of Zen, brings you to that place of Satori, where you're able to just be in your meditative zone, and not thinking about everything, and not feeling so much moved by the waves around you, then that can be really powerful right now, and powerful in this time, and finding that little space, that little sliver of time to do that, even if you have all this other stuff going on, or commitments, or you're traveling, you know, and you're not necessarily in your own home or near your own gym or yoga studio or whatever. You know, find the nature near where you are, or find the center near where you are, and try to really take care of yourself in this time. I'll see you soon for the solar eclipse report in a couple weeks. If you like this video, please like, comment, and share. And as always, if you sign up for my newsletter, you will get these reports directly to your inbox. You won't have to seek them out. And there is right now running a free report on where Jupiter in Sagittarius is in your chart. So for each of us, it's a different sign or a different house that we're experiencing these different shifts in. And this particular report will also show you, of course, where Ketu and Saturn are hanging out also, because they're all in Sagittarius, and where this coming eclipse is going to be in your chart, because Jupiter is joined the South Node at this point and joined Saturn at this point. So these free reports that I do, they help for your specific rising sign show you the area of your life that's affected. We all have very specific things in our different natal charts that are going to be, you know, affected by the different alignments, but the biggest one is your rising sign, because it shows your entire house setup. So it shows your first house being your body, yourself, your face, your walk in this world, your path, and then it goes from there. And each house is a different arena of your life. And if it's, you know, if it's your 10th house that this is all happening in, that's going to greatly affect your career. If it's your 4th house, it's going to really be a big upset on your home life, or your, you know, your self as a mother, or your own mother. So each place in your chart that it hits is going to be very profound. And when you know that area of your life, it can really help you deal. It can help you be prepared, and to take things more in stride when you come upon them. So that's why I recommend these awesome free reports, and also these forecasts. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Namaste.